I almost lost my mind researching this topic today, and then entered the same world as Gabbie Hanna. Gabbie Hanna is a YouTuber, for those of you who don't know. Hannah Claire knew. I guess nobody else had ever heard of her.
Wasn't familiar to me.
I guess I'm somewhat of a connoisseur.
I think they're older than us,
YouTube
and
drama.
like part of it is like the YouTube drama vlog squad like thing really became like
she was part of the OG vlog squad.
Like that kind of like content on YouTube developed, I think, when you were probably more interested in it than like
she was friends with David Dobrik, and he kind of like dumped her as a friend.
Aww.
She's kind of been around for a long time. She started on Vine, then she was on YouTube going by the Gabbie Show, and now she's kind of like veered into doing music. A lot of people have made fun of her for a long time just because she has kind of an erratic personality. That's much different than what's going on right now.
Should we play the first clip, the first one you sent me?
Yeah. Okay. There's some worrying content being posted.
Am I looking
on
at the right?
I've taught you this before, kids. Let me teach you again.
Yeah.
Gabbie Hanna posted a video about the psychology of YouTube.
She's talking in the first person.
How
Is her?
the
In
power
the third person.
Wait.
that easier.
she has. I didn't realize this because she has like had blonde hair for a while. She's undergone some
She's done
changes.
a lot to her hair.
She has these like bugs on her neck tattooed, and I keep seeing it stitched together where she'll be like, the carpenter bee is for like working independently, and people will like cut to their own dumb tattoos and be like, Charizard is because I'm hot, you know, like all this stuff. I didn't realize that was what she looks like now.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep playing.
Have Fabian response of animals with pleasure and reward. It's classical conditioning, right? And he literally, Father Time, TikTok, did that to us with social media because it's funny. And because he was studying.
She's not filming
Because
herself.
genius
Somebody else is filming her.
is a
Are you
mad
sure?
scientist.
No, you can zoom like that on
Obviously.
TikTok.
I hate when people do that.
Of course
You
you
guys
would. That
just
was
so
She's doing
much
it.
better.
She's doing it in post.
Than the person.
No, you can do that on
who
TikTok.
everything
She's
you
holding
know.
a thing down going,
That's even
Why
worse.
are you
Yeah,
so upset?
She doesn't
about
even
Vain.
film it with like a third-party app.
I love that I'm like teaching you
Jesus
about
God.
the like mechanics of TikTok.
We all know why you're so upset about the
that's
existence
annoying.
of God. You were all hoping that you could just trash your home and abuse each other.
Do we think she's high or
And
like
then
what's the
if you
deal?
followed these little rules and rituals that were literally created, let me tell you what the current masses are. White men were watching women of color do very natural things with their healing powers. They tried to copy it and they looked dumb. You want to know what a baptism is? A bath. Saint John the Baptist was giving baby Jesus baths because he stepped in as the father when
St. John the Baptist, who was in the womb at the same time as Jesus.
Also, like she's equating the word like B-A-P Baptist with bath. Like, girl, I don't think you're getting
don't
this.
even try to look at it from the perspective of like making it make sense, because it's not going
Yeah.
to.
Literally, I was going to ask you the question, Mary. Can you make it make sense?
Can you show another one maybe
Steel
to,
Man
so we
this?
can get a full scope of like
Let us pray. Our Father, who
a lot of
art
it is religious themed
in heaven.
which
Going through
delusions
Holy
tend to
is
be.
your name. Your kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
What she's zooming in on this
Give us
flower?
this day our daily bread. Are everybody's basic needs met?
Oh, UBI. Okay, perfect.
And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass
Castle
against
doctrine,
us, because
perfect.
we are all one.
What?
For
She's
the
like
kingdom,
making up parts of this.
When did this
prayer.
go up? Is she okay?
This is all in the past
glory
like
are yours
48
now
hours.
and forever. World without end.
What does it mean?
The thing is, guys, it doesn't mean anything. A lot of people
Resist the temptation to give it meaning.
Yeah, like I feel bad that a lot of people are making fun of her in the comments and kind of memeing her complete mental unraveling.
Is that what
that
this is? She having a psychotic
I
breakdown?
think she is.
Or is she like so high she doesn't know what she's saying?
She has a history of mental illness and has talked about
man.
having bipolar in the past.
So you think
and
she's like publically broadcasting a psychotic
I
break?
think she is
Oh,
like
man.
publicizing, her psychotic break, her manic episode, whatever you want to call it. she's not seeking help, obviously. She's just kind of unraveling and posting all of these videos from her house to millions of followers who are mocking her. Some of them are genuinely concerned but misguided about what to do with that.
Well, there are people that care because people called the cops and there was a wellness check done on her.
Yeah,
to make sure
people
that she
People
was
live
okay.
stream that.
the LA police, and they before this wellness check happened, she appeared to have invited a complete stranger into her house who started live streaming inside of her house to like 17,000 people. He went by the name Nicholas. No idea who he is.
What did she say about it? She was like, "This is this guy
And
I
she
just
like
met in my
posted TikToks featuring this random man, and people were worried about her safety, obviously. So they started calling the LAPD, and they sent a psych evaluation team to her house. I don't know how exactly it went. She's recalling how it went as like she said she got cuffed and that they were making fun of her, that they were forcing her
But
to do all of
she's
these
already
strange things. But
paranoid, and
I
out of-
don't know if any
yeah.
of that is true. So
It's very hard
they
to discern.
determined that she wasn't a threat to herself or others, and they left her to her own devices, which is all they can do as law enforcement. And I think some people assumed a wellness check does more than what it actually does.
No.
They don't have the power, and they're not in the position to offer her psychological help.
Nope.
They're just
Right.
there to make sure that she's not in any danger and no one else is in any danger
Well,
around
that's
her.
why we need social workers
If she even
and
answers
not
the door.
police officers.
Well, what she needs is somebody in her personal life
to
to
help.
help her.
Yep.
Other
But
than Nicholas.
I don't know why that hasn't happened yet.
That
Come
seems
on,
to be
Nicholas,
we're
get
going
it
to talk about
together.
that on Monday when we talk about what's her name, Alexa Nicholas. It
Yeah.
seems like a big problem with most of this stuff is people not having anyone in their lives to help them.
And they've been isolated from their family and friends for whatever reason, whether it was their choice or not.
And that's from a society that's becoming more insular. I feel that people are becoming more wrapped up in their phones and their digital lives, and they're living far less in the real world with real people. And family isn't as important as it used to be a lot of the time. And like, so when things like this happen, it's very easy to dismiss all those things.
Yeah.
For instance, when you're young, but when you're older, you need people to help you, right? These are people that aren't there. They're not even, they don't need to be older. They just need help because right now they're struggling. And the way our culture has now been set up and changed, they don't have that structure anymore.
I think it is one of the weird aspects of modern cultures, and really this started in like the 1970s, I want to say, when more young adults started living outside their parents' home. Like, you move into an apartment. For a long time, it was, for in human history, super normal to, like, even if you were, like, until you were married, you lived with your family, because, like, the idea of maintaining your own household, like, it was just much more work. And
Some cultures it still is.
Some cultures it still is.
When I was in Spain, there was a town that we were in. They were like they like live at home till like they're 27, and they immediately begin their career. Like it was just set up far different than it is here.
It's more familially oriented. It's more community oriented. So she's like, I think in her 30s, and she's
31.
She's been probably been living in LA for a long time. But whenever I hear like these young, like 18, 19, 20-year-old YouTubers being like, I'm moving to LA, and I feel this way about college
That's kind of
students
who
too.
she once was.
Yeah, well, like, just like when young college or young like 18-year-olds go off to college or move out of their parents' house, like, it is, it is actively a risk. It's not that you shouldn't do it, but like, you are suddenly in a place where you don't know what your support system is like. Even if you're not having like a mental break, if you slip in your house and break your arm and you live alone, like, that is a danger. We worry about it with older people because the risk of recovery is harder.
Yeah, but the difference here is that usually it's not in front of millions of people, and
in some ways it's
like
stranger.
that's the aspect I wanted to highlight in it, because I don't know what in her mind is her motivation for publicizing it. And I mentioned that like the commenters are oblivious to the very likely possibility that she is deeply invested in their response to her behavior.
What I was going to say is
paying
like,
very close attention to how the comments react.
What I was going to say is like, so she is someone who's been on her own for a long time, that's fine. when she's undergoing an issue, because she has this outward performative nature, like any calls for help are obviously warped, because is she doing it for the attention? Is she doing it because she'll know people will continuously click back on her story? Like, if she hasn't really built a safe support system, like a sturdy support system of people who honestly know her, then it's hard to tell what part of this is like a mental crisis versus what part of this is her just sort of taking on a new aspect of performance because that's part of her career.
And as your phone, as people make more of a living on social media, where the line between real person and performer gets far more blurred than I think people
I just
want
saw
to admit.
in Hill, I don't know who did the poll, but there's this headline from the Hill that says like 1 in 4 people under the age of 18, their plan is to become a social media influencer. Like that is what, like, can you imagine? But I know
it's interesting because Gabbie Hanna doesn't fit that bill. She went to college. She has degrees in, I believe, psychology, economics, other things since then.
But
and
when she was going to college, it wasn't the career path.
And then, she kind of just fell into the career path on Vine because that was what was popping at the time. But like, she has the foundation to have a normal career and a normal life if she so chose.
Can you?
And now she's just kind of like alone in this weird city around a bunch of weird people who are isolated from all of that like normalcy.
Can you manufacture this type of career? Like, I think about like kids who become Olympic athletes, right? And their parents pour their heart, souls, and money into training a kid to be able to, whether it's a pro athlete or an Olympic athlete, and they spend hundreds of $1,000s to get that kid to that point to be able to perform at that level. I'm thinking if kids are like, I want to grow up to be an influencer. Can you buy your way into that? Or is that like one of the most fool's errands ever? Because it's like, you can't fake.
Olivia Jade kind of did that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's
Were you about to mention Olivia Jade?
I was thinking the Kardashians or like Bella and Gigi Hadid.
Yeah, but I think even the Kardashians deserve some credit because they kind of built the template for the social media influencer. Right. And Olivia Jade just straight up had it bought for her.
Yeah.
So it can be bought.
It's like if they have
through connections.
If you already have some, like who's Travis Barker's daughter who we were talking about the other day?
Alabama.
You might know who she is.
Travis Barker does.
Is Alabama a name that for other people that I was not aware of? Are there other people named Alabama?
I think there probably are.
Okay.
What state would you guys name your kids after? Just out of curiosity.
Maine.
Literally none of them.
Literally none of them.
I've always liked Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia I think is like, or like.
I mean, yeah, Virginia's cute.
That's cheating because that's like an actual
How about
name.
Mary? Because Maryland.
Maryland.
Ah.
Maryland.
Does that work?
Yeah.
No.
I've heard people name their kid Alaska before.
Yes. I
don't
know.
know if I like that.
I have a friend who named his kid Alaska.
I'm trying to think of like what are like.
But why?
I thought of asking that, but decided against it.
Nevada. I've known someone named Nevada.
Rhode
before.
Island.
But Rhode, people do use that. I guess because it's kind of like a last name.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know.
Or if you're Kanye, you have a kid named Chicago.
I'm just looking for like a kid whose name is Vermont. They're like, we just want to like tell the Ben and Jerry's guys that we think they're good.
Georgia. That's a name.
Yeah,
So
Georgia's
an
a name.
actual-
So you can buy your way into social
Carter's
media
taking
fame.
this, like,
I feel like who you know is
realistically.
better
Too
for that
invested.
than necessarily pumping money into it.
That's
it's
why the
about
Vlog
vlogging.
Squad was a thing. It's because, I mean, they were almost made fun of for it, but everyone in the Vlog Squad except for David Dobrik was seen as like the clout chasers.
Yeah.
Who would do anything for views and do anything for David Dobrik's approval. And then that kind of spiraled out of control.
I just want to posit that like that whole time period, the Vlog Squad, David Dobrik, and like these early days of YouTube gave way to like the TikTok influencers and the content houses that you hear about now. Like they were basically the beta test for a model that is still employed. Like get people who want to become famous and have them.
And now there are
be in close
companies
proximity.
crafting that for them, and it's not organic. I don't know if it can be as successful.
Probably
that way.
not, but it is like an ode to this. Like this is the
Yes.
part of YouTube that Gabbie Hanna came from and gave way to. And so in some ways, like, is she a model for like what happens to these people whose lives are built around being fame and sustaining attention and fame? Like, do you put yourself in a position where having a mental breakdown and broadcasting yourself, it might be a bonus to your career?
I mean, is it kind of like starting over, like pressing the reset
I have no
button?
idea.
Maybe that's what she feels she's doing deep down. I have no idea.
I'm always surprised by the amount of actors. It's not really off the topic, but who have degrees in other fields, but just fall into acting, and they just maybe like knowing you have that backup plan makes it easier for you to commit to what you're doing.
I think this is the false flag of college in the United States. Like, if you want to be an actor, take acting classes, perform a lot. Like, going to pay for
most
a
of them
degree in
did
acting.
theater as well, but
But
they
like,
found that performing was something that spoke to them while also getting another degree.
See, I think that like we still think degrees are guaranteed to another field. Like you mentioned, like she might have a degree in economics, right? And so theoretically she could go work in economics, but really if she applies for a job with any economic capacity, she doesn't have, as far as I know,
she doesn't have the experience.
Any experience.
Yeah.
Experience is actually what people want and employ you based off of. Like
Right.
we are well past the point.
Yeah.
And I went to college, and I feel like I can commit to saying this. Like we are past the point where a bachelor's degree or even a master's degree guarantees you a better salary and a better job and higher
maybe not that
career
it
prospects.
guarantees it, but that it makes them feel more secure in trying something else because they're under the illusion, whether it's real or not, that they can go back to that.
I just think it's important to emphasize that it is an illusion at this point.
For Gabbie Hanna, I think as an aspiring musician, she kind of hasn't found the success she was hoping for that some influencers have reached. And that's part of what has driven her down to this point that it's looking like rock bottom for her, sadly. And it's interesting. Another aspect I wanted to highlight from this, because Brett, you've mentioned this in the past, how people can kind of get away with anything if they're articulate enough. She, in some of these videos, she seems very calm and kind of well-spoken while making statements that are so outlandish and impossible to follow.
A lot of the comments basically said as such. They said,
They're like, why can I kind of understand what she's saying? It's like exactly that you mentioned before.
You can intellectualize your way into just about any statement.
Like if you have the verbal ability, even though you're in the middle of like hallucinating and you're like living in a complete delusion.
Yeah.
Right.
People will believe that you're on to something.
Some of the most articulate things that I've read are the most insane statements about gender ideology. They can phrase it in a way that makes perfect sense, but...
And it's also weird that, like, some of that ideological stuff is, like, infesting her delusions. You can tell, like, her language is reflexively going back to that.
To me, it speaks like, I think that the reason that the people who, at least when I think about the people who ideologically manage to speak on something that makes little sense in the real world but makes sense on paper, it's because they're drawing from college experience, right? So they learn to intellectualize this through their education, so it comes out as if they're writing a paper for school, when
you become a better writer than you become a good thinker.
Well, I think also academia is littered with examples of like made up jargon that make you sound authoritative.
Yes.
Like it doesn't actually make sense. And so they come up with all sorts of phrases. Some of them make sense if you're really explaining a new concept, but some are just like phrases to make you sound like an expert, so you're in the know. And in
then
some
you
ways,
won't question it because,
that's like
it's
a
a
strain of schizophrenia in academia that, like, in a real case of delusion, you're seeing it play out. Where, you know, if someone is in the middle of a manic episode or like in psychosis, they make connections between things that are absolutely not correlated at all. And it's kind of spreading out to the entire population.
And the problem is you can't prove what they're saying necessarily wrong on paper, but you can in the real world, but you're not communicating.
Because you keep it vague enough, you word it correctly, then it can't be disproven.
No, I think Carter's right. They don't believe in
That's the whole problem with postmodernism and subjective reality. Not to get into that, but it's definitely...
Get into that.
No.
I mean, that's kind of the nihilistic place that you're left when you see someone literally breaking down on the internet and like no one has any compassion for them. Basically, my ultimate point with this was just that the internet has no compassion. There's no place you can go where people will care. You have to have face-to-face interaction and real relationships.
How will you feel if like later it comes out she staged this whole thing for attention? Do you think that like
I think
that actually adds to your thesis? The internet
if
has
she
no
is
compassion.
that good at acting, then I hope she gets a career out of it.
I will say it was impressive to watch her like read a prayer and zoom in and out.
That was
on
crazy.
The film, unless she memorized it, which is equally impressive. Unless she was raised Catholic.
I mean, the Our Father is not that
I know, but I mean,
a lot of people know it.
Yeah.
Our Father.
It's funny though that you didn't know the zooming thing was like
Brett's
a
gonna do it all.
mechanic of recording on TikTok.
When he's skating now, he's gonna start doing it all the time.
It's very advanced.
Yeah.
You can't learn that in film school.
You
No,
like
you
on
don't.
Instagram story
Yeah,
do a lot
it's
of
funny.
zooming.
Like I was talking to somebody that I
Do
was
I?
in
I
film
don't
school
know.
with the other day, and I was talking about, I was like, all these years of like making. We got from 4:3 video to 16:9 widescreen, and somehow it's 2022 and we're filming in freaking vertical video again. How did we get back here?
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.